Hey guys, it's Missy Wolf and I'm here with Paul Laine. How are you tonight?
I am better than most. How are you doing?
I agree. I think you are. I think you're doing really well. Oh my God, you're so busy. You've got a lot going
Yeah,
on. What
yeah,
can I just ask a selfish question right now?
sure.
What the hell do you do to take time for yourself? Because you are doing so much for so many other people that I just feel like, do you ever get a break?
Not really. I mean, this is, there's certain times in your life where it's the music industry. So some parts of your life are feast and some part is famine. So it's really good in these moments where it's feast to remember the famine, right? And
Right.
it's great when you're in the famine part of your life to go, right, the moment I get a chance to do a ton of work, I'm just going to keep saying yes until that stops. And so that's what I'm doing. I've had a bunch of with Dark Horse and the Defiance sort
Mhm.
of putting me back on people's minds.
Mhm.
I get a lot of job offers, so I'm saying yes to all the ones that I want.
That's great. That's awesome. And one of the things that I talked to you about, when I actually first met you was the fact that you write so many different styles for so many different people. How do you keep track of that? And how do you, I mean, to me, well, I can't really write anything other than an article. So I don't know how you do that. How do you get into that frame of mind where you have to write a different genre? Like, how do you set yourself up for that?
Uh, well, first of all, I think when you're growing up, you listen to a whole bunch of different kinds of music, right? Like at least I did. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't one of those people that just kind of said, I'm only going to listen to this and only listen to this. It's to me, music is like, would you eat the same food every night? You
Right.
After a while, you would be bored, right?
Right.
So I always liked a whole bunch of different kinds of music, and I always felt that my education would come also from saying yes. Like I started when I was a kid. I started working in a recording studio only because number one, I wanted to learn how to run the equipment. I made a deal with an engineer that owned the studio, and I said, listen, he had told me a story about people coming in and just having lyrics, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
having
Yeah.
poetry, basically.
Right.
And he said, that's sort of the weirdest thing that ever happens in the studio. It happens all the time. People think that if they write some poetry, then they can make that into a song, and that's what I do. And he goes, that's not what I do. I'm just an engineer. And I said, well, listen, here's a deal I'm going to make you. Every time that happens, and I'm sure he just thought I was a cocky kid, and who does this guy think that he is? I go, just let me come in. It'll be a session for you. I'll write the song, and you'll bank the hours in the studio. And one day he called me, and I did everything from like someone who was doing a musical, like a
Mm-hmm.
play. So just kind of Broadway tunes and I found that I could do it. I could do it. I would go home, I'd go home and listen to like My Fair Lady, and I would uh, come back and write my version of Surrey with the Fringe on top.
Oh my God. I love that. Um, and you know what?
But that's kind of started my whole thing
Yeah.
and obviously all the other influences that I had and things that I loved outside the rock world. I wanted to follow that. Like any. I think that sometimes people think about music is that you can only paint with one color,
Right.
and I disagree. I think that you got to keep challenging yourself. That's what keeps it interesting, right?
Yeah.
It
Well,
keeps it interesting. I don't want to make the same record over and over and over again.
there you go. And some people do get caught up in that, and then so when they try to find another sound, it's hard for them, and their fans kind of,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like I've seen it. I've seen it go that route too, where someone just has a really hard time trying to grow, and um, I applaud you for everything that you do. I think that's great. And but I
Thank-
still, I'm amazed because it's not just that you write different genres I mean, you have your hand in so many different aspects of the entertainment industry. It's just ridiculous and mind blowing. You're one of the most talented people that I've ever talked to, and I'm fascinated by everything that you do. And I know that you've done stuff for TV, and is it film too that you've done?
Yeah, I'm just branching into, or sort of branching back into it. I've always done little bits here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I realize, after several companies kind of contacted me, I realized, oh, this is something that I can do my whole life. Like,
Right.
I'm not, I'm a certain age. I'm 49. I'm turning 50 this year, and I keep going. Well, I kept asking the question, well, what am I going to do when I stop touring? And
Right.
and this whole film thing just kind of fell back into my lap. And I thought, this is a way I never have to retire. I can just keep composing,
Right.
and I can keep being challenged, and that will make me happy. You kind of ask God or universe to go, like, just send me a sign, and then I'm going to know. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what was handed to me. So I'm not questioning it. I'm just going with it.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And I love that you were, you mentioned that you could do it forever and you don't have to retire. You can keep writing. And I hear that quite often in the music industry. Musicians, they don't stop. If you're a musician, I mean, you're going to be playing and singing till the day you are just gone and off this earth, because
Yeah.
that's just who you are and what you do. It's everything you are. So I
Yeah.
love that. And not every job you can do that with.
That's true. That's true. I would be, if I was a quarterback, my career would be over.
Yeah, okay. You gotta put
No, but
there's
it's true. Like, all the sports
right.
guys have to plan for a career after their career. And I say this to the musicians out there: listen, there's a whole other bunch of places that you can have fun in. And if you're like the touring guy and you're getting burnt out, and you have enough talent as a writer, there's tons of work out there for you that's challenging and fun, and can give you the same buzz that you got from playing live or whatever, making records.
Right, right. No, that's awesome. Now, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting out who wants to, test their skills at songwriting? What would you tell them?
First thing I would say is put yourself up against your peers first. Who do you love? And then make sure that they're the people that you break yourself upon, because it's really everyone who starts writing, and I was guilty of this when I was young. The best advice I ever got, I started my musical career really early, and I started recording demos really, really early, and I thought I was great, because I'm a teenager. I thought, I've got this, and I think my songs are hits. And I remember I had a meeting with this guy who signed Bryan Adams
Oh,
to A&M Records.
okay.
Yeah, and he agreed to have a meeting with me. I think I was 15 or 16 years old,
Wow.
and he listened to everything, and he said, "You know what? You're good, but you're not good enough." And then he gave me 5 songs. He said, "Here's the 5 songs. I want you to go home and figure out why these are hits and why yours aren't." And I was devastated because I loved everything that I did, and
Right.
my little child ego was going, I'm great. So, I walked back out to, my mom's car and started crying, and drove all the way back out of the city, caught a ferry home to the little island I live on, and then I thought about it for the next couple days, because I thought, Michael Godin, that was the guy, so he's got a point. If he's saying this to me, there must be some truth to it. So then I figured out how mine didn't sound like these songs that were hits. I started analyzing it. So that's my advice. My advice is break yourself upon the artists that you like. They're the rock. You got to bust yourself wide open until you are as good as them. And when you're as good as them, you'll probably get a record deal.
Yeah.
Or whatever you're trying to do.
Right.
Whatever you're trying to do, you've got to achieve that. The day that I wrote my first single, I knew it was a hit, and you couldn't tell me otherwise. But 2 years earlier, I would have thought, yeah, that's a hit, but I might have had a bit of doubt. And then you learn to recognize that feeling as you go on.
Well, that's
What's
pretty-
good and what isn't.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty great. Now, have there ever been times where you've gotten bad advice that you've followed?
Sorry?
Have there ever been any times where you've gotten bad advice and you followed it?
Oh, sure. And most of it was bad advice that I told myself.
Ooh.
Most of the worst decisions that I ever made in my life in the music industry were based on my own ego being hurt. Honestly.
Yeah.
I walked away. I had Bryan Adams and now Michael Bublé's manager managing me, and I was really angry with him for some things that he had done, in the business to me, and I actually got hurt feelings by it, instead of going, I need clarity on this, and if I take a little time, I will, but you're young, and you get mad, and you fire people when you shouldn't fire them, and you make decisions based on your emotions rather than business.
Right.
It's really important when you're a young person in the music industry to have someone to hold you back and say, look, you need to rethink this.
Yeah.
Because when you're a songwriter or a musician, a performer, an entertainer of any sort, most of the time you're the most insecure person in the world. And the one thing that makes you good, which is being in touch with your emotions, and being able to get that out and move other people,
right,
is the thing that's your biggest detriment to. And if you don't, kind of control that part, or recognize that shouldn't control my business side, that can fuel my creative side. But
right.
So I would say to any young person out there, have someone solid in your corner giving you good advice, and who's able to ground you and tell you when you're being a shithead and being a child and being
exactly
and bad decisions, right?
And I think we've all seen some of those people, that they think they're amazing and they're cocky, and they'll go into an interview or a business meeting, and they'll talk to somebody, and they'll come across like they're just the shit, and really they have some growing to do, and they don't want to hear it, and then they don't get anywhere because of that. And if they're not willing to grow and to take those confidence hits, right? It's what I call them, constructive criticism. If they're not willing to take that and then grow with it, they're not going to get very far. And this industry is brutal, and I've seen it knock people down, and you have to have a thick skin, but you have to be willing to listen. And the other thing that I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen young artists who are really, really, really good, and they don't see it, and they don't believe in themselves, and they don't value themselves. And they'll say that. They'll say it verbally to everybody, I'm not that good, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And it's like, we have to tell them all the time, you're good. But you need to make sure that you believe it, because if you don't value yourself, no one else
the best
is going
people
to.
are the most insecure people, I found, when they're young. And that's the thing that drives them harder to succeed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you still there?
I'm still here.
You froze.
Oh, I know you're frozen too, but I can still hear you. Okay, are you there?
Okay. We're back.
We had some technical difficulties, people, but I know that y'all could still hear everybody, so it's all good.
All right.
But no,
Go ahead.
It's really sad, right? I mean, it's sad to see that, and the ones who are the most insecure have so much talent that I've seen, and it's just breaks my heart to see them be so hard on themselves. And I mean, we see it all the time.
That's the thing that makes them great, Missy. That's the thing that makes anybody. It's the people who have so much confidence when they're young that suck. They suck because they've either been surrounded by people who are yes people and told them how great they are, that the first time they hear their first no, whatever that no may be, that song sucks, your performance was terrible, they don't believe it. So then they don't have the ability to change and go, right? You get to that point in your life where you all of a sudden earn your stripes and you earn that confidence, right? I was the same way. I felt like I was, I'll tell you a story. When I went in to make my first record, the producer was Bruce Fairburn, who, and Aerosmith, and the list goes on and on. So he was the guy set to produce my first record, and said, listen, We're gonna do. I'm making a record called Aerosmith Pump right now. He's working with Aerosmith. I don't think he knew it was called Pump. I'm just saying that's the record. I'm working with Aerosmith right now. I want you to come down, and we'll do pre-production. After hours. When I take my break at night. So I'm in there watching Aerosmith record Pump. I thought I was pretty good, because I got a record deal and I landed the biggest producer in the world.
Right.
And he brought me down there, and my first thought was, after the first week, I don't belong here. Like, this is, it's like being around Mozart. Like, it killed me. It absolutely killed me. It killed my ego. It killed everything. Probably the best thing that ever happened to me, but not at 20 years old. At 20 years old, it was very, very scary.
Right.
And it made me sharpen my game, and it made me go, right, that's what I need to be.
Right.
I need to be that. Steven Tyler is probably the biggest influence on me in the recording studio goes. Because I learned, and as a writer, because I got to watch how he created and how he composed on the spot, how he trusted his instinct, and how he fought for things all the time. That really changed it allowed me to trust my instinct, right. I guess.
Right.
Right? And it allowed me to also throw away, that's why I can write any kind of music. I think if I hadn't met him or watched him, because he can write any kind of music. He literally can reinvent himself every 5 minutes, and he does.
Yeah.
And he's a genius, He's just that guy that goes, I'm channeling this stuff, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to sing you the guitar line. I'm going to sing a horn line. I'm going to, beatbox the drums how I want it, right. And just work in that moment and trust it rather than. And I understood that's what experience and confidence and trusting your instinct does. It allows you to be that kind of composer. So I set my plan as far as the first person who taught me a giant lesson. That changed my life.
Right. Right. I can see that. I mean, I was in the studio yesterday watching this new country band. I'm listening to their demo, but I'm standing in the hallway and Mark Slaughter is working with them. He's producing them. And he's giving a vocal lesson to one of the guys, and I'm just standing there, and the way that he's explaining to this guy how to get his voice to where it needs to be was intriguing to me, and I've never seen a vocal lesson. I've never been to one. I can't sing. I know enough to know that I can't do it, so I'm not ever going to go there. But watching him interact with this guy, it was a side of Mark I had never seen. And then take it a step further, we're back, inside the actual studio, and he's describing to the guy running the soundboards or whatever they're called, mixed, I don't know what, the guy who's running the whole
those
stuff.
Those with knobs and dials.
Yes, that stuff. He I know. This is my job right here. No, but so then he's explaining to this guy how in the other control room, in the other sound room, where to place the mic to get the best sound from the drums because of the air, and you have to have the door propped open a certain way and the mic at a certain height. And I'm like, how the hell would you even come up with that? And I was just like, man, it was so brilliant. And I just think, you're along those same lines to me. Just everything that I've heard you say, everything that I've seen you do. I don't know how you guys were blessed with such creativity, but I'm so glad that you were, because the world needs more of it. And I'm so lucky that I get to be one of the listeners that gets to hear this, because I could never do anything like that on my own. There's just no way. It's amazing. What you guys do is amazing.
Thank you. I think too, Missy, is, look, we all get an education. Some people go off to university when they're done high school, and all of us who went into a recording studio and started recording, right. And Mark Slaughter being the case that you're presenting right now, you pick up things, and then that becomes in your bag of tricks, right? And you learn that and you file that away. And so when you later in life, when you're producing another artist, you get to pass that information along.
Yeah, and it blew my mind. I can't even tell you. I all day yesterday I was just like, wow. Who would have ever thought that? And all the guys that he was, working with, they're all looking at him like their eyes were just all bugged out and just staring up at him. Like,
Sure.
Who is this genius in the room? And it reminded me back in the day with Sam Phillips. You hear the stories where Sam Phillips, what was it, Ike Turner and that group where they, that the amplifier was broken on their way to, Memphis recording service. And so Sam filled it with newspaper,
Right.
and then, yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. How would you think of doing stuff like that? It's amazing.
Well, the studio has always been trial and error, and then people pass it on.
Yeah.
That there's always new ways to create a new sound. I mean, now we do it kind of because of technology,
Right.
but the basic elements of recording, as far as analog goes, you're recording a drum kit, a guitar amp, and all the rest of that stuff. Though the same things from the 60s still apply today. We build our career and our chops on the backs of everybody else. That all that information just gets passed on and on, right? So,
absolutely.
But a lot of the recording techniques that were done, even, I mean, if you want to talk about the most amazing time in the recording industry, it's really, in the 50s, like recording all those Sinatra records and, Mr. Sandman and all of that stuff that sounds so amazing.
Right.
Now and I listen to those recordings and I go, they had one mic in the room.
Yeah.
Right? They had one mic in the room. They had to search and find that sweet spot and record that. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the live to 2-track, the live to stereo. Okay, we got a bunch of mics, but it's only one take.
Yeah.
You fix it. That's actual people playing. Now we can fix everything. You could talk me. You could read me a poem, and I could draw it into music. You could say it in a monotone voice. That's where we live right now.
Yeah.
And that's sadly what's happening with a ton of artists. There's so many. Anyways, whatever. I'll shut up about that because then I sound like an old guy.
So it's great though, because you know what I think too, fans, they don't really pay attention to everything that goes into it, and they don't really see the progression unless you're a musician and you're like definitely diehard music fan, music hardcore listener, and you're paying attention. You don't know what all goes into it. So I think these types of conversations make people think, and then it makes them curious, and then they want to go and research different stuff. I mean, I was listening to some stuff yesterday, and I was like, wait, this person sang all that background stuff too? There's like 5-6 different voices you hear, and it's all the same artist, just overlap. And it's like, I never thought about that before. I've been listening to music since I was a kid. I just took it for granted, and so many people do. So these conversations, I think, bring a lot of importance, to light that need to be there. We all need to know what really goes in and takes place. I think it's
sure.
great.
And even for future people who are going into the studio to record and have never made a record, all the young guys out there, no kidding, they were looking at Mark and their eyes are wide because you've wondered your entire life, how did those records sound like they sound, right? Yep. You don't know. Yeah. And then you get into the studio, work with somebody, and that changes. I didn't know, like I started working with Fairburn, I didn't know they locked a bunch of this is back in the day, they locked a bunch of 24-track tape machines together, and then, you would stack 40 background tracks of vocals and then fly that into, all of a sudden records made sense to me.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's how they do that. I thought a band just got in the studio and played. Well, that's part of it, but that's the very beginning of it.
Right. Well, and I think my first kind of glimpse into that was I was watching this artist. He's a new and up-and-coming artist, and we've done some stuff with him, but he had this video on YouTube, and it showed him playing every instrument. It showed him doing all the vocals, different things, and I was like, when you listen to it, you think, okay, there's like so many people doing this, and he played everything, and I was blown away, and I thought, oh my gosh. And then I see Mark, and I'm just, so every day is a learning experience for me too, but I'm just so impressed with what you guys are capable of doing. I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jealous that I don't have that talent. I would love to be able to like be one of the cool kids and be able to do all that stuff. But, you know, at least I get to talk to the cool kids. So it's all good.
Yeah, and we all think we're nerds anyway, so music nerds.
That's awesome. Hey, I was a bando. I was in high school band, so, you know, I guess.
Is that right? What did you play?
Huh?
What did you play?
I played the baritone.
You played the baritone?
Yeah.
Sax?
No, like the mini tuba. It was just the baritone, the big.
Go on.
You're a trumpet player.
Anyways,
I
band.
love that. So yeah, I got to sit with the horn section, and it was really rad. I started out as a clarinet player, and
we all did.
Well, and then you get to high school and you want to compete for parts, but I didn't. I was like, okay, there's like 20 clarinet players, but we had no brass section, we had no horn section, so I was like, all right, I'll switch, and so I switched, and I was in jazz band. I played the valve trombone because I didn't know how to do the slide positions.
Sure.
But yeah.
You might cool chick ever. Valve trombone. I played the valve trombone. It's like really, honestly, what's cooler? I played guitar. No, man, I played the valve trombone. Say that 5 times really fast.
Oh, I love you. You're amazing.
Did you listen to a lot of Chicago records?
Okay.
Tell me at least once you played 25 or 64 in class.
Oh my God, you're pretty funny. But hey, I marched a million miles with that band and that instrument, and I loved every minute of it. And I have a ton of pictures and video. I'll have to break that out one day and show people. And I had the costume with the big swab hat thing. It was awesome. Good.
Go on.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna go on anymore.
I loved my school band sweater.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That stuff was fun. I loved it. But my absolute favorite picture at all was my senior year picture with my marching baritone on my knee. Loved it to this day. It's like still my favorite picture. And I felt like, you know what? That was it. I was the coolest chick ever. And I know I'm not, and I wasn't. But in that moment, I was amazing.
Right.
And I loved it. It was great. Oh my gosh. Well, what do you have coming up that we can tell everybody?
What's happening next? I am working on the new cast. This girl in Australia. Her first single comes out August 1st, and then I've just written her second single. So that stuff is all happening. I think I'm going to Japan to play with the Radio Sun.
Oh, nice.
That's been talked about a bunch, and then I think that's in maybe November, and then go to Australia, sort of finish off the year there. And then we just got added, like this is on the rock and roll side, we just got added to Melodic Rock Fest in Chicago. That's the beginning of May. And then we go to Malmö, Sweden with that same festival. And then I believe we're playing Sweden Rock like we just did right after that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You need like a cloning machine.
What?
You need a cloning machine. So like you can take some...
Sorry.
You need to clone yourself.
I told you, I need a cloning machine because I could rob banks and blame it on my clone. That would be great. I quit music tomorrow.
Let's just both do that. I'll start planning a bank robbery with you.
No, I just think you got to pull out the baritone or the valve trombone and restart your career. I mean, listen, the YouTube hits alone.
Oh my God, you are too much. That is so not happening. You guys at home, that is not ever gonna happen. No, I might get drunk and do it though. Right. No, it's all good. All right, where can everybody find you?
They can go to Facebook's the easiest place. Obviously, Paul Laine official. And then, of course, Dark Horse official online, all my Dark Horse stuff. The Defiance is very easy to find as well. So, reach out to me on Facebook. That's the easiest. I always get around to answering. But I do work a lot, so everybody cut me some slack.
You do?
I write more messages about, hey, I'm really, really sorry, but I go off the radar when I write, and then people are like, yeah, you write all the time. Thanks a lot, jerky. And
oh my gosh. You guys cut him some slack. He's doing the world a favor by writing some kick-ass songs. I was just telling everybody to give you some slack. But all right, guys. Well, until next time, I hope you all had a good time. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.